So yesterday we started talking about similar polygons, and we discussed how their corresponding angles are congruent. So just like with congruent polygons and similar polygons, all corresponding angles are congruent. The part that's different is instead of their sides being congruent, they're proportional. And what that means is, if I have a triangle, and let's say it has sides 2, 3, and 4, and then I have another triangle that's similar, that means all angles match up, are congruent. And then the sides are proportional. Okay, so for instance, here's 2, 3, and 4, and I have them that turn the same way. So, you know, the 3 sides proportional to this side, 2 is proportional to that side. All right, so for instance, if this side was 6, okay, well, if this side here was 6, I would have to do 2 times 3 to get to 6. So to find the other measures, you would just multiply them by 3. So 4 times 3 is 12, so this side over here would have to be 12. And then 3 times 3 is 9, so this side would have to be 9. Okay, so that's what proportional means. Means you would have to, in order to get these sides, you would have to multiply all of these by the same number. It's just like when we were in chapter 5 doing dilations, where you had to multiply everything by the same number. That's all this is, it's dilations. That chapter was actually getting you ready, or that section was actually getting you ready for this chapter, for this section in this chapter. All right, and then we talked about how to find the scale factor, which we've done that before. It's the image over the pre-image. So the image is always the second one. So you always do the second one on top, and you just pick 2 corresponding sides to find the scale factor. So here we did 12 over 20, and that gave us 3/5. So our scale factor K was 3/5. And we've done that previously in chapter 5 when we had to find the scale factor. And then we talked about how to find the missing side. We would set up a proportion and solve for X. And that was the missing side. And I believe we were on this problem right here, correct? You were working that one out with your partner? Okay. Go ahead, turn your desk, face your partner. Grace and Natalie, y'all work together today since both of your partners are gone. And then Taylor, you may have to explain it a little bit. Oh, and to Sydney, since she wasn't here, then you may have to explain a little bit to Lincoln. And Abby, you may have to explain a little bit to Natalie. Alright, so whenever you have 2 triangles that are similar and you have a side missing, you can set up a proportion. A proportion is 2 ratios set equal to each other. It doesn't matter how you set up your first ratio, but your second one has to go the same way that your first one does. So they told us to find the length of KM. Okay, so I don't know what KM is, so that would be X. Okay. So now to set up my ratio, I'm going to compare this segment, which is a median, to the same segment on this triangle, which is the median. So I would compare X to 35. So I would do X over 35. Equals, then I would pick a side over here, which the only side they give me is this one. And just a little trick here. This is 48 and 48, so the whole thing would be 96. But since they gave you half of this one and half of that one, you could have just used 48 over 40. Or you could use 96 over 80. Either one works. Because 48 over 40, and I'll show you, if you do 48 over 40, that if I divide those by 4, that would be 22 over 10. That would be 11 over 5. Okay, and if I did 96 over 80, let's see, divide those both by, let me divide them by 2. It's 96 divided by 2. Is it 48? Over 40, divide those by 4. See, 48 over 40, divide those by 4, you get 22 over 10, divide them by 2, you get 11 over 5. So notice both the 48 over 40 and the 96 over 80 both give you 11/5. So you could have done either one. Okay. So, but I want to do it with the whole side. Okay, so if this part is 48, this part's 48, so the whole side is 96. And if this part's 40, that part's 40, so the whole side's 80. Since I compared X and put it on the top, and it's in this triangle, JKL, then I have to put the side on JKL on top also. So I would have to put 96 on top. And 96 would go over 80. You would put it on its corresponding side. JL corresponds to EG. Okay, so you have to do its corresponding side. Now to solve it, you just cross multiply. X times 80 is 80x equals, what's 96 times 35? Is it 3360?
Mm-hmm.
And then divide them both by 80, and you get x equals 42. All right. All right, before you try one on your own, what questions do you have for me? All right, so the next one you're going to try on your own. Actually, the next two, I've got two up here. That way you can work both of them as soon as you're done with the first one, and you can start with the second one, and I'll check your first one while you're working on the second to make sure you're good. All right, so here's the first two. I'll pull the screen down so that way you can see it. The first one, triangle ABC, is similar to triangle LMN. The ones that I whited out, I believe, are the 6, the 9, and the 8. And the second one, these quadrilaterals are turned. So be very careful when you're figuring out the scale factor, because you got to pick two sides that are corresponding. You got to pay attention to the similarity statement. DEFG is similar to PQRS. Those of you that are finished, let me go ahead and change it over to the next slide. Okay, those are the next two. And then you got these ones that's correct. Yep, looks good. That looks good. Yes, these other two are from section 2. Yes, you just have to make sure the two that you pick are corresponding, and since you put X on top and it's here, whichever side you pick has to go on top from over here.
It's like on one of these, it doesn't matter how you do it all.
It doesn't matter, you can do it either way you want.
So I can go like 21 or 14.
Yes. What matters is if X comes from this one and you put it on top, then over here, the side you pick has to go on top.
Oh, so I have to get them in some shape like that.
Mm-hmm. You can go ahead and number these and put them in your binder. Did you get them all taken care of? wanna say 43, but don't hold me to that. Look and see what section 9.2 was, and it'll be right after 9.2. Looks good, you go ahead and number them from in your binder. Good, and go ahead and scan your binder. That one's good. Yours looks good. Yours looks good. Will someone look at their table of contents and tell me what page 9.3 should be?
43.
Is it 43?
Yes.
This one here, you did next over 22. Okay, since you put X on top and it's from this quadrilateral, then you have to put 13 on top, so you need to do 13 over 26. Yours will good, I would go to your binder. Your vocab is gonna go in your binder, but it's gonna be the last page of our notes. I haven't decided whether or not 9.3 is gonna be our last section of chapter 9.
We only have 4 more Mondays left.
Are you ready for me to take yours, or are you take
Oh,
yours?
you're right. I was waiting, I'll get a worksheet.
Well, yeah, we can get started on it, but you won't have to take it home for homework if you don't finish.
Yeah.